we on? There we go. Hey, everybody, and welcome to the 5th installment of Trippin with Theobold. We do this every Thursday. Trippin with Theobold on Thursdays, aka TTT, aka Titty. It's like now, I'm Andre Theobold. I go by AT. I go by Dre Theo. I go by Dre. So anywho, we here. Like I said, we do this every Thursday, man, where we talk this shit, you know. And every time I start recording, man, I either got to sneeze or my face start itching and shit. So I start touching my face, man, and I don't know what that's about, man. That might be like a neurological. I don't know what that's about. Let me not go off in the deep end. You know what I mean? So before I get started, I just want to give a little warning, I guess. They started doing construction in my apartment area, and that should be loud. So if you hear some banging and stuff going on, it is what it is. We just gonna get through it. But man, it was banging, man. I'm like, damn, what the fuck is y'all doing? Like, it's like, man, they were like building a new apartment or some shit. Like, it was some heavy construction. Like, I couldn't even hear myself think. So that was on Monday. Today's Thursday. Maybe they got all the heavy lifting done, and you know, now we good, or whatever. So as y'all know or may not know, you know what I'm saying? This is a podcast with a unique format. Let me just go and get this off the bat. You know what I'm saying? Grew up with a severe speech impediment. I don't know how I'm doing this shit right now. I mean, I know how I'm doing it. It's through perseverance and through work and shit. You know what I'm saying? But back in the day, if you told me I was gonna be doing this shit, I would have been like, man, get the fuck out of here. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not completely relieved of like my speech impediment. Like, there's still lingers of it that still linger on. So what happens is, if I have a hiccup or like a bloop bloop, I'm just gonna call that shit out and keep moving. Like, ain't no sense in crying over spilled milk. You know what I mean? Because like before, when I was trying to put out content before, like I would do like 50 takes because I kept like fucking up on a line, or I kept having like a little hiccup. You know what I'm saying? Or I would get like 38 minutes into like recording some shit and go bloop, bloop, bloop. And I'd be like, damn, I got to record this shit all over again. You know what I'm saying? So I don't do that. I own my shit. If I fuck up, no matter how bad it is, we just going to keep this shit moving. Right? So without further ado, we got like 5 segments now we got to get through because I'm adding little pieces to the shit. So without further ado, the first segment of the show is the Say Whaaaaa portion of the show, and let's go ahead and get into it. Right, so the Say Whaaaaa portion of the show is where, like, we get in and we kind of like just talk about anything speech impediment related. So let's go ahead and get into it. So I didn't have any major hiccups this week, or no major relapses this week. I had a prep meeting for something very important, and I was on a Zoom call at my computer with the same setup, and it was weird. It was like, I don't know, it's weird because like I'll be listening, but like I know that if the meeting is like a short length of time and I know I have to ask a question, I'll try to listen, but then I have to like also keep track of the question that I want to ask and make sure that it doesn't get not asked, and there was kind of like this, whenever you're on Zoom, it's like this back and forth where it's like, it's weird because it's like a delay. So I think that triggered like a bloop bloop, but it wasn't like it wasn't a bad bloop bloop, you know what I'm saying? Like, when I say a bloop bloop, it's like either a hesitation or it's an outright stutter, you know what I'm saying? And I haven't like had let me fix my string, there we go. Like, I haven't had a meltdown for a minute, and I'm not trying to jinx myself, but hey, if it happened, man, we just got to pick it up and keep rolling. You know what I'm saying? But I'll hesitate awkwardly, and during this prep call meeting, um, I was about to say something, and then the person said something, and I was like, it. But the key thing was though was I didn't like look. I didn't like make eye contact. Right. That's the funny thing when it comes to stuttering to stuttering or stammering. I just got my words mixed up there. That wasn't a bloop bloop. Um, but man, but that's the shit. That's the now that was kind of a bloop bloop right there. Cause see how like I hesitated, and finally got the shit out. Man, come on, Dre. Anyways, I what happened? But the funny thing about stammering or stuttering is like when you make eye contact with the person that you stammered or stuttered to, nigga. Yeah, nigga, you did that shit. You know what I'm saying? So, um, when I had my little bloop bloop in the prep meeting, I kind of just kept it moving, and I didn't like lock eyes onto the shit. You know what I'm saying? So I kind of it wasn't. I mean, maybe they picked up on it, maybe they didn't. You know what I'm saying? But if I was on the receiving end, I would have saw that shit. I'd have been like, oh, you're one of us. Um, but that was like the only major hiccup I really had. Um, but I remember growing up. So you may hear like terms or whatever. I mean, I just define shit as I go along. But when you have like a speech impediment, like you develop a bridge word, right? And your bridge word is the word that you use to spring off into a sentence so you can, get going, right? It's kind of like a booster, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm trying to think of a good analogy of this shit. But it's a bridge word, right? It's a word that it's a word that has sounds that you are comfortable making that you can pivot off of and jump off of and say words that you normally either would struggle to say or that you can't say at the time. So right now it's like I have words that I say a lot of. Like I say I say I say so, I say like, but those aren't really bridge words. Like I really just don't know what the fuck I'm saying yet or what I'm gonna say. And I think I'm just too afraid of like dead silence because I got to work on that. So they're like filler words. So I use a lot of filler words right now, and I got to cut that shit out. I know I got to work on it. I did my Toastmasters, and I got the little dog whistle or the little click click shit in the meetings. I got to work on that shit. But we gonna get it together. But growing up, I had a bridge word. Like my bridge words, like I use bridge words to get to I use bridge words to say words that I couldn't say, right? So for example, my bridge word growing up when I was younger was G. Like, GEE, like gee, I wonder what's going on. Gee, what's that? Like that's how like I kind of like went into shit. Um like that was my bridge word, and I remember I got called out on that shit, and it was embarrassing, because there was this babysitter in our neighborhood, and I think I was maybe like 6 or 7 or whatever, and like I'm out playing with some other kids or whatever, or we're like playing around in the woods and shit, and the babysitter, I kept every time I said something, I would start off by saying, "Gee, I wonder what's going on. Gee, how are you doing today? Gee, gee, gee." Like I just kept using that bridge word the whole time. And the bitch called me, or the chick called me out. Like she was like, "Why do you say G before you say everything?" And I was like, "Ah, shit, she's on to me." And these were thoughts I thought when I was younger, so I was smart when it came to this, like stuttering, stammering, and shit. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. So, uh, I'm trying to think of some other bridge words I may have had, but I kind of got away from that because, um, what I found out later is that, like I said, if you watch my other shows I did before, the one thing I said about like my specific brand of speech impediment or whatever you want to call it is my shit be fluctuating. Like it be changing up on me. You know what I'm saying? Like right when I get comfortable saying something, the thing I'm comfortable saying starts to become hard to say. You know what I'm saying? So that's some fuck shit. You know what I mean? Like I'll be So for example, when I was younger, I could say G and I could get off into like I could use my bridge word to get into my sentence or whatever, or to get into what I was saying. But as I got older, I think bridge words won't work for me because I'll get comfortable saying that word, and when I get comfortable saying that word, um, I might start stuttering that shit before I get into my shit. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, we just brainstorming. We gonna figure this shit out. Oh, I don't got no water. I do got water. Okay, give me a second. Sorry about that. We back. My throat started getting a little dry. There we go. But now I looked up this. I looked up this stat because I was just curious, and there are not a lot of people that stutter in the world, man. And when you look at the numbers, it's like, man, this is amazing. I don't like using the word amazing. That's a Jesse Lee. See, Jesse Lee Peterson fucked up that word, man. Amazing. Like, he says amazing like after everything. And now it's like, I don't even like that word no more. He'd be like, amazing. So I got to scratch that. But anyways, I was fascinated by this stat. So as of 2019, there are roughly 330 million people in the United States. All right. And of the 330 million roughly people in the United States, 3 million people stutter or have a speech impediment, right? Nigga, that's less than 1%. So how lucky am I? Like, man, that's crazy. So that just makes you kind of think about shit in a different perspective. Like, like they ain't really trying to fix this shit because it's not enough. Like, here's the thing, right? If 100 million people like stammered or stuttered, they'd be all over this shit, and this shit would be fixed in a heartbeat. They'd be like, "Oh my god, it's an epidemic. We have to get this thing figured out." But if it's less than 1% of people that actually like stutter and shit, man, they ain't fixing that shit. They gonna be like, man, just deal with it, So that's kind of a shitty feeling. But hey, you just gotta keep rolling with the punches, man. It is what it is. And that's one thing like I didn't really bring up, right? Is that, or I wanted to talk about was I want to talk about like job applications and stuff like that, right? Because like when you apply for a job and shit, what happens is a lot of times is they want you to put down if you have a disability, but they never list, stuttering as a disability, and it's kind of like a soft, I kind of did it there, but it's kind of like a soft, it's kind of like a soft disability, I guess, right? It's like, really, it's like, hey, if you want to admit that you got it, go ahead and write it down. But it's like you have to like then I guess provide paperwork and shit, like you have to like have a doctor that says that, yeah, this is a disability, or you got to go through that whole process. So I never check other, like whenever that comes up, I never put down other, and then I never say I bloop or whatever, because I don't even know how that even works. But then when I get on the job, it's like when people find out that I do it, because in the past I used to try to say I kind of did it there. See, my face kind of got twerked up a little bit. I said twerked up, like my face was twerking and shit. that shit is stupid. But when I'm at work, it's like I used to try to hide my shit, and I feel like when I tried to hide it, you know what I'm saying, it was like more pressure for me to fuck up. And then if I did fuck up, which was it probably wasn't as much as I thought, but people were kind of like, there's kind of like that, like that little pause, like, that Rudolph, like in Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, when Rudolph lost his coal off his nose and the shit started turning red, everybody was like kind of amused and like scared at the same time, you know what I'm saying? So, it's kind of weird, man. Like it's like a soft disability, I guess, or maybe it's not even a disability. I don't know how basically they're like, man, you got to figure your shit out, so that's what I'm doing, but anywho, what else am I talking about? But here's the thing, right? Like the best analogy I can give to what is it like to have a speech impediment or stutter or whatever you want to call it is it's kind of like tripping, like when you walk. Like let's imagine that like you're walking on um like some ice or whatever, and then you slip. It's like it's embarrassing, you know. It's scary. It's very random, And then and even if you try to get up, it's like you may stumble getting up. But it's like once you successfully have fallen and gotten back up, what typically happens is you're very cautious about falling again. So now it's like you're afraid to walk, you know? So that's kind of how it is with like talking, right? Like a lot of times it's like you'll be afraid to even talk, because it's like, fuck, I might slip up, And I'm just, like I said right now, I'm just getting comfortable with this shit. Cause my thing is when people fall, when they walk, like if they fall violently and if they try to fight it, it just looks very like scary and bad, right? And when it comes to like talking and speech, I kind of want to have the approach of, okay, well, if I'm going to trip, I'm going to make sure I trip in a relaxed way and it's funny. That's where I want to be at. You know what I'm saying? Like if I ever trip in public, I'm trying to make that shit a fucking spectacle. I'm trying to make that shit funny. You know what I'm saying? Because this shit ain't going to break me, goddammit. And I kind of want to have the same attitude and approach when it comes to like, talking. You know what I'm saying? Like I want to be able to like, when I fuck up, I want to be able to fall gracefully and kind of laugh at myself and then kind of be like, hey, everyone, it's okay. I'm just getting my shit together. I'll be up in a second, and that's the attitude I want to have about it. You know what I'm saying? So, but enough of that. What else we got? Let's move on to the next segment of the show. Next segment of the show is the DFS portion of the show, or the daily fantasy sports portion of the show. Now, if you don't know what daily fantasy sports is, go Google that shit. You know what I'm saying? Because we just gonna assume that whoever's watching this knows about daily fantasy sports. In a nutshell, it's basically like Dungeons and Dragons, but it's with sports. But we play for money over here. You know what I'm saying? So, what the fuck is going on with this daily fantasy sports shit? So, there was no woe of the week last week, because last week was NBA All-Star weekend, or this past weekend was NBA All-Star night. Like they put all that shit in one day, and I think with the effects of Colt 45, because I can't call it the other thing because I don't want to get my page taken down, but or flagged or whatever they do, but to me it's like if the NBA could like make money by just doing the shit in one evening versus having like a whole 3-day weekend, it's like work, man. They trying to like consolidate shit. They're trying to make money in the most efficient way possible, So this might be the norm going forward. Like it may no longer be, because you got other businesses, right? So other businesses around the cities like to have the whole weekend to make money and shit. So I think when they come back, they're gonna get back to having like 3 days for NBA All-Star weekend. But the funny thing about NBA All-Star weekend is they used to have I grew up on the NBA, and I remember when I was growing up, I used to collect cards and shit, and they had like, they were really pushing education, It was read to achieve, and then they had the basketball cards that said if you know this, then you know this. So basically they would have like some sort of like school class, like if you knew like things about maps, then they would, I guess, try to relate it to basketball some kind of way, Or if it was like if you can do this, you can do that. Or if you know this, then you know this, right? And that to me was pretty dope, And then they had no, it wasn't read to achieve. It was reading is fundamental on Saturday mornings. Like that was like part of the back to school NBA back to school jam. I used to watch all that shit, the NBA back to school jam, and I remember Carmelo Anthony fucked that shit. He fucked that shit up. He was trying to tell the kids to read. He's trying to tell the kids to read more books, but he ain't read books. So he got up there and was like, "Hey man, I would tell y'all to, read more books, but I don't even read books like that. I was like, at least he kept it a buck, man. At least he kept it a buck. But I think after that is when they pulled the NBA back to school jam. But they gotta bring that back, man. Or they need to have something where, I don't know. Like that to me was just fun because it was kind of like it's like a weekend camp, right? Where when you go to a camp, you have like different little segments of shit to do, and then you gotta have the boring shit to make the fun shit fun, But if you just have fun shit the whole time, it's gonna get old. You know what I'm saying? So, anyways, yeah, Daily Fan. So, like I said, there's no woe of the week from last week. So, but I do want to have a criticism. I do have a criticism of DraftKings, man. Like they can really improve on some shit. So the one thing that DraftKings started doing that I don't like is they changed the questionable color indicator from yellow to amber. Right? It's like an amber. It used to be a yellow box with a white Q in the yellow box, right, next to a player. And now it's amber, right? It's amber. It's an amber box with a Q in the box. And that shit looks too much like red and O, right? So when you're reading through the shit, like it's like you might accidentally, pick a player that's been out or that is out that you think is questionable. So what I think they need to do is like all they have to do is fucking change like the character of the Y from white to black, right? But keep the shit yellow. You know what I'm saying? Because I think I kind of see I did it right there. I think I see why they kind of did that though, right? I think what they did was they were afraid of the white like blending in with the yellow too much, and that's not bad because like yellow, we all know yellow means questionable. You know what I'm saying? But it's a minor detail, but now it really throws you off when you're trying to go through your lineups, man, because it's like, well, either way, man, you got to read like the thing I found out is you have to read the description of the players or read like the little news update shit because the DraftKings be on that bullshit where they don't even like a lot of times they won't put the actual status of the player, but it'll say in there, hey, so and so has a sore knee, might not play tonight, but he'll have no questionable status, and then next thing you know, you went in like you're like in the top 10% in your tournament, and all of a sudden, when that one player starts, he's sitting out, and now you lose out. You know what I'm saying? So, I guess you just got to read to achieve. You know what I mean? But what else we got, man? With this DFS. So, yeah, I'm looking at my DraftKings for tonight, and I'm looking at some players right now. And my Theobold prediction of the week, I'm thinking I'm gonna go with So my Theobold prediction of the week is this, right? I predict that Luka Doncic, I think he's gonna put up mid 80s in fantasy tonight. Yeah, I'm going mid 80s. Like I said, I'm looking at the data. I predict, as a matter of fact, I'm gonna give you an exact number. I'm gonna give you 80. I predict Luka's gonna put up 87 fantasy points tonight. That's my Theobold prediction. So we're gonna come back next week and see how that shit turned out. Actually, last week I had, what did I do last? Who was my prediction? That's right. I didn't do a prediction last week because it was All-Star weekend. So what else we got going on? So that's it for the DFS portion of the show. We're gonna keep things moving along. Like I said, we have other segments that we're adding in, and excuse me, and we're just gonna keep this shit moving, keep this party train going. So now we are on to the SIMPology section of the show, where we talk about the simp shit. you know, because like I said before in the past, you know, I was a hardcore simp, man. I just didn't get it, you know. I didn't get the number one rule of when it came to like how not to be a simp. You know what I'm saying? Like the number one rule is you can't make nobody like you. People either like you or they don't. Now, people don't like you, it doesn't mean that they won't eventually like you. You know what I'm saying? Like they can like you on their own terms or their own, or they can like you on their own accord or during their own time. But there's nothing you can do specifically to make a motherfucker like you. I mean, that's just life, you know. And I think schools in the past, like, you know, I think schools in the past fucked me up with that because they always were on some like coon shit where you could like, you know, go out and, oh, if you buy him this and walk on eggshells and if you say nice things or if you say things that you really don't mean, right? Like everything is very like, you know, transactional, you know? And I think that with me growing up like that, that put me in that state where like I'm always like auditioning for someone's time, you know? And that's like not the way to teach kids how to grow up, man. Like the way to teach kids, man, is like, look, man, if motherfuckers don't want to play with you at recess, like fuck them. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like don't like hate them, but just do your own shit. You don't need to like you don't need their validation. So I had to learn this the hard way, you know. But anyways, when it comes to me and the SIMPology shit or whatever or simping, I had no relapses this past week, man. Like I had no relapses, you know, like, and I think last week was the same thing. I had no relapses, and I think the major reason why I'm not having any relapses into simping is because of, you know, Code 45. You know, like I said before, I can't call it the real thing because I don't want to get my page flagged. But yeah, one thing I am doing a lot of though is like I'm turning my head too much in public, you know. Like when I go to Target, like I'm like shit, man. Like going to Target is like the new club, man. Like you go to Target, man. It's like people are going there, like them chicks is going there dressed out, like they trying to show out, and they trying to show their little quarantine, like 25 they done gained. You know what I'm saying? Like I'll be in Target, and I'll just be like, you know, and you know I'll be seeing chicks walk towards me. I'm like, yeah, I'm not gonna look. I'm not gonna look. Yeah, I'm gonna look. You know what I mean? But that's not simping. That's just, you know, that's just like I don't know. That's some dumb shit. Hey, right quick, before I go any further, make sure y'all hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. You know what I'm saying? Tell a friend, do all that fun shit and mash it up. And on social media, I'm on all forms of social media at AT is where it's at. Follow me. Okay, so I had to make sure I plugged that so people, you know where to find me or to remind them to, you know, like this shit or whatever. But anyways, like I said, I had no relapses, man. So let's actually talk about a simp relapse, right? Like what do I mean when I say a simp relapse, right? And what I mean by that is it's a state that people fall in or that dudes fall in that they feel like they can basically crack the code to a chick. You know what I'm saying? Like, you remember playing video games back in the day? Like, you know, when you put in a cheat code for the game and you'll sit there and then you'll play the game and then you'll try to beat that shit and you'll sit there like, oh man, I got to try this. Oh, maybe I got to do this. You know what I'm saying? Or, man, I got, like, basically, it's when you try to troubleshoot a chick, right? That's what a relapse is, right? Like, anytime you think you can troubleshoot a chick, you simping. You know what I'm saying? Like anytime you think you can troubleshoot somebody or a chick in particular when it comes to simping, you a simp. Like, or that's simping, right? Like let's say for example, like you get this chick and she ain't giving you no choosing signals whatsoever, but you think, man, shit, here's what I'm gonna do. Yeah, I'm gonna drop her a text in the morning to say good morning to put her to get me on her mind. And then once I do that, I'm gonna see if I get a response. And if I get a response, I'm gonna I'm gonna follow up with like a little joke in like a text format. You know what I'm saying? And then if she doesn't do that, then I'll probably try giving her a call tonight and see like let's see when you try to troubleshoot a chick that's not giving you choosing signals, that's simping, right? And when I say relapse, that means that I was going back to doing that, right? Because I used to do that shit, man. I didn't write this shit out, but in my mind, it's like my gears were always clicking. Like a chick would always be on my mind. Like, oh man, what can I do? Man, what if I did this? Shit, what if I did that? Yo, Dre, you gotta try this. Yo, like, you know what I'm saying? And the way you beat that shit out of your head is by just saying, look, man, people like who they like, right? And the chick that I'm trying to get at, she ain't fucking with me right now, right? And she might never fuck with me, and I'm cool with that, right? So that's like the attitude you gotta have, like in my opinion, right? That's how I've been successful with this shit. You know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, man, like, you know, I value peace of mind over any chick. And that's just me keeping it 100. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's nothing worse than getting the chick that you want and then all of a sudden just having no peace of mind. Like, that shit is hustling backwards. You know what I mean? So, yeah, so that's what I mean by when I say relapsing and shit. Like, that's what I'm referring to when I say that. Excuse me. But yeah, man, but I've been around other people that were simping, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I can always tell who's simping, right? Like, basically, and it's not by what they do, it's like their conversation and like what care they're taking with interacting with a chick. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like you can just like, you know, tell like, man, they've been thinking about how to interact with this chick because they want something from her and they're like, man, I want to get this, but how do I do that? I got to do this. I got to get this. And you can just tell through the conversation or the nature of the conversation that man, they thinking about it too much. Like, I'm like, yeah, look, I'm like, why are you going to let a chick live in your head rent free? You up here trying to figure this chick out. You out here trying to solve her like she a Calc 3 problem. And she probably getting piped down by some other dude. You know what I'm saying? That's just the truth. That's just the nature of the matter. You know what I'm saying? Like anytime like you're trying to figure out how to interact with the chick or you're trying to, you know, like anytime you're trying to like figure this chick out and man, like, you know, why isn't she doing this? And man, she's doing this. And you complaining? Just imagine this chick getting piped down by some other nigga that you don't even know. And that'll just ease your mind, you know? Like my motto is if you're thinking about one chick, you don't have enough chicks. Sorry, ladies. That's just how that's my defense mechanism. You know what I'm saying? If you're pining over one chick, you don't have enough chicks. And I'm not saying I'm gonna go out and artificially try to get my numbers up. But it's like I got shit to do. Like I got things I'm working on. So I gotta make sure I'm putting my effort towards that. But if more chicks come along, I'm just gonna keep collecting. Like, you know what I'm saying? Oh yeah. That's how this shit work. Like, look, I'm no dating coach, but my thing is I'm a SIMPologist. You know what I'm saying? Like I help motherfuckers realize that they simping and how to unsimp themselves. That's what I do. You know what I'm saying? Because look, I have successfully unsimped myself. So why not help others, you know? So my thing is like I'm too busy worrying about like I got projects I'm working on. I got bigger shit. I got bigger fish to fry right now. You know what I'm saying? But those days of pining over one chick are long gone for me. You know what I'm saying? Like I could go and like meet like 3 chicks today and I'm not gonna commit to any of them. I'm just gonna keep collecting more chicks if I can. Shit. I mean, that's not my aim, but if the shoe fits, I'm gonna wear it. You know what I mean? So that's that or whatever. So moving on to the next portion of the show is the this is kind of a newer segment that I added last week. It's called it's called, I need a better name for it, but it's called the comedy trials, right? Um, and I don't want to. At first, I think I called it. I think last week I called it comedy trials and tribulations or something like that. And I don't like the word tribulations because tribulation means, like, if you look it up, the word tribulation means like great sorrow and great pain and all that. And um, there was maybe a few moments like that when I did it, but it's like um, I'm not trying to like break out my violin, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just trying to like talk about the trials I've been put through to help make me who I am today. You know what I mean? So last week I think I talked about I kind of gave you like the preface to how my comedy journey began. And I kind of told you about like, you know, how like I was called to do this shit. Like, I'm not trying to like brag, but I mean, everything, like, go back and watch my last video. But and me in my right mind, I would not be doing this shit. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I love doing this shit, but it's like weird. It's like um the signs have been there that's like, nah, Dre, you need to do this. Dre, get out there. Now keep going, keep going. Like, something else is pushing me. Don't know what it is, but something else is pushing me. You know what I mean? So anywho, I think last week I left off with the bookstore story, right? So so basically what happened, like I said before, when I was in college, um, there was always this like voice or this feeling like, yo, Dre, you gotta write, man. You feeling a lot of shit. Put this shit on paper, man. Just put it on paper, right? And I had so much schoolwork going on and school stuff going on or whatever, um, that when I finally, like, you know what I'm saying, like, you know, popped my cherry with comedy back in the day in college, I didn't really have an outlet to really go and exercise it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was young. I was like 19 or some shit, 18, 19. And I'm just like trying to get out of school to like make money because I'm still getting money from my folks, you know, to like do shit, you know what I'm saying? Like, just the basic essentials to get food and to survive. I'm getting that from my folks. And I'm like, I'm trying to eat off my own self. Like I'm not trying to be getting bird fed what I need to survive every day in life. Like, you know what I'm saying? So with comedy back then, I didn't know like how this shit was gonna like be now, and I didn't know, like, you know, how things were gonna shape up or whatever, you know. There were a lot of things that, so anyways, no excuses, you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, I could have back then, um, instead of going to parties trying to get ass, you know, I should have been in my room, locked in my room, just writing out shit and, like, you know, filling up notebooks. Like, that's what I should have been doing. But we live and learn. We're not gonna beat ourselves up over that shit. Um, but anywho, man, my throat's getting sore, man. Shit, nigga, this talking shit is work. But anyways, yeah, I talked about my last trial in my last video, so I'm not gonna go back and recant that whole story. But now we're in the bookstore, right? So I remember at the time my folks wanted me to go to med school. And they were really pushing that because, like, my pop, you know, was a physician or whatever. And he had his own practice. You know what I'm saying? He had 2 offices or whatever and shit, you know. And I was supposed to take over the business, you know what I'm saying? So my folks wanted me to go to med school. Like, they were on, like, basically, like we used to watch the Cosby Show back in the day, and it was like we were watching ourselves because, like, you know, my pop was a physician. My mom wasn't. My mom's not a lawyer, but, you know, she's a nurse and she's like really respected in the medical field or whatever. So it was like, nigga, you doing this? No ifs, ands, or buts about it. You know what I'm saying? So every time, like, I came home, it was like if I had an idea of something I wanted to do, because I did it right there. Every time I had an idea of something I wanted to do or to pursue in life, it got struck down, you know? Like, I was like Elvin and shit from the Cosby Show. Like, I would come with these ideas and they'd be like, nah, nigga, you're not doing that shit. You know? Like, I remember I remember one time and my mom, she came home with the Britannica encyclopedias, right? I'm kind of dating myself, shit. But she came up with the Britannica encyclopedias, and I'm like 8, 9 years old, and I'm trying to like read through profession because like I actually care about what I wanted to like put my life work towards when I grew up, you know. So I started with A, you know, and I was like, okay, archaeology. Oh wow, they discover like dinosaurs and stuff. Cool. And I remember I went to my pop, and I was like, hey pop, like, hey man, yeah. So what does an archaeologist do? And he'd be like, you don't want to do that because all you're gonna do is go broke playing in the dirt. You're going to medical school. I'm like, oh shit, okay. Then I came back with I came back with astrology, all right? Because no, astronomy, shit, I'm fucking up. Because like astrology is the horoscope shit, but astronomy is like the science shit or whatever, right? I think one is like more religious based, and one is more like, you know, like physics based or whatever. So whatever, shows how much I know about that shit. But anyways, I came back. I was like, yeah. Hey, what does an astronomer do? And probably like, you don't want to do that because all you're gonna do is go broke looking at the stars. I was like, shit, okay. So that's like, you know, my folks cared. It's like, here's the thing, right? My folks cared, but they wanted me to do exactly what they wanted me to do. Like I felt like they were trying to live vicariously through me. So it's like, um, it was like if I had dreams of my own, it was like a big deal. It was like huge. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, um, let's say for example, if I wanted to like play in the NBA or to play football, like the way all those dreams got treated or whatever was, it was like, oh well, this is just an extracurricular activity for you to stay fit, but nigga, you're not doing that shit. You know what I'm saying? So I had like a lot of people, like family members as a whole, they were all on board with this you know, keeping me on path to being a physician or being a doctor, which is something that I didn't even at the time I didn't know. At the time, I didn't know if I wanted to do it or not. You know what I'm saying? But it was like I didn't have that exploratory or that exploration to say, oh look, maybe if I do, hey, like I didn't have that encouragement, right? And I'm kind of like, I guess in a way, I'm kind of jealous of that, right? Because a lot of people grew up and like they had free reigns over whatever the fuck they were gonna do. Like they were like, look, I'm gonna go try this, and if I fuck up, I fuck up. Like, but I'm free to go explore anything I want to explore, right? Like they had that like freedom. Where with me, it was kind of like, you know, I had to like either be like super at something to where, you know, there was like a lot of pressure where if I did something, it was kind of like, you know, if I go down this path, I have to like show that like I'm a god at this to even get my folks to even consider getting on board with me doing what I'm doing. But anywho, I'm gonna get down to this story later because there's a whole lot more down the path, and this is not the. I had to use this part of the story to set up the bookstore story when it comes to this, like, you know, comedy trial story, right? So anyways, like I said before in my last video, I think that um I said that when I found out I could do comedy and shit or make people laugh, my first thought was, nigga, my folks are gonna kill me if I tell them I'm trying to do some comedy. Like they don't want to hear this shit. Like it's cool to listen to Richard Pryor and watch specials and stuff at home, but they're like, nigga, we don't want you doing that. You know what I'm saying? So anywho, when I started out in college, I was undecided my freshman year, but I was doing pre-med classes, right? And pre-med is not a major, right? Like as some of you guys may or may not know, pre-med is not a major. Pre-med is just, it's a list of like courses that you have to take in order to, you know, prepare yourself for the MCAT. So that's why it's like you have to have a major, right? Like people might say, look, I'm a bio major doing pre-med or whatever, or you can major in anything. Like if you wanted to, you can major in like music or theater and, you know, do pre-med. You know what I'm saying? But at the time, like, or even now, like basically I was like really into math and like numbers and just figuring out how things work. So I went the engineering route. So I was basically my sophomore year, uh, I was an engineering pre-med major, or I was an engineering major doing pre-med or whatever, right? And that was like suicide, you know, because I was doing like 20 credits a semester, you know. But anywho, I remember. Let's get to the bookstore story because I kind of been like talking around this shit, but I'm kind of like I'm trying to lead into it, you know. But let's get to the bookstore story, right? So, uh, I remember I was doing organic chemistry and like other engineering classes, you know, because typically you don't do organic chemistry in engineering, right? Like that's like where they're like you do general chemistry when you do engineering, but then what happens is, you know, if you are going the pre-med route, they're going to say, hey, look, you got to do like you got to do organic chemistry, and it starts going like this, and then you're doing like physics and everything else for engineering or taking your engineering classes. So my shit started to go like this, you know, and I remember I was studying for this organic chem test, and I wasn't interested in this shit. I mean, I was interested, but it was just weird, man. Like I just felt like I was memorizing shit. Like I didn't feel like I was like learning anything, you know? And that's me. Like me, I like to think and I like to try to figure out shit for myself. Like if you tell me I gotta go memorize all this shit and you can't like really tell me like, you know, or if you have this is I guess my flaw in life, but if you tell me to memorize something and you can't prove that what I memorized is actually fact, I'm not really gonna want. I'm not gonna want to waste my time memorizing that shit. You know, that's just me, right? So I remember I was doing an organic chem midterm, and I think I was talking. Yeah, I was talking to my pop on the phone, and we were having a heated discussion. You know, he was like, "Gee, you just gotta memorize the shit and spit it out. Don't read it. Don't try to learn it. Just memorize it and spit it out." You know, and I'm like, all right. And then I'm going to class, and then I'm asking questions like, "Hey, how can you like prove that?" Oh through chemical experiments or whatever, or through empirical analysis, we gathered and we have deduced that this is what it's doing. But then when you keep reading, they'll be like, "Oh well, there's this exclusion, and then there's this special case, and then there's this case." I'm just like, well, it seems like the runaround, right? So that's not how my mind worked, you know. So I remember I took this midterm, and I didn't even really try on the shit, but I got like a C on it, you know. Like I was like, I don't want to do this shit. Like, I remember during the whole exam, I'm just like, man, I do not want to do this shit. I'm just sitting there like, yeah, I know, okay, I memorized that, but okay, whatever, you know. And I'm just like, I don't want to do this shit. So, like when I got done, it got to the point where I was getting stressed because I was taking like 20 credits that semester, and I go to the bookstore and I have to actually buy a book for another class or whatever, and this book is like super expensive, and I'm like, man, I don't want to buy this fucking book, man. This book is like $400, man, and shit, I ain't got no money. So I go to the bookstore, and my mentor slash friend who got me on stage the first time over at the at the Comedy Central Who's Funniest on Campus thing, he worked in the bookstore, you know, and he saw like the stress on my face. Like I was stressed out, man. Like I was just I was lost, you know. And he was like, "Yo, Dre, what's wrong, man?" I'm like, "Man, I was like, yo, my folks, man, they pushing me to do the whole pre-med thing, and I'm not really feeling the pre-med thing. Like I'm trying to focus on engineering, and I'm just like, I gotta buy these books, and I really can't afford books for both, and oh man, I'm just like, I don't want to do this, and like whatever. And this dude looked at me in my face, man, and said the most profound shit. And I knew it was profound because it sent chills through my body. Like I can see this shit like play by play in my head. Like I can see this shit like every day, you know. And he looked at me, and he was like, "Yo, Dre," he's like, "Yo, man," he's like, "Man, you can't live your life for your parents." He's like, "You gotta live life for you." So he was like, "If you want to do engineering, nigga, go do engineering. You know what I'm saying? If you don't want to do pre-med, don't do pre-med. But nigga, if I were you, I would say fuck all that shit and just do comedy. Yeah. And what are the odds that, you know, way in the future, I'm doing comedy? Like, you know what I'm saying? So, um, that was like when he said that, I was wrestling. I was like, man, he might have a point. Shit, you know? And I was wrestling with, hey, do I try to please my parents? Do I, you know, do I try to please myself? And if I try to please myself, do I do engineering, or do I just say fuck everything and just do comedy? You know what I mean? But like I said, I have no regrets on the path that I took. I'm at where I'm at. You know, I learned a lot, and if I didn't have these experiences, I wouldn't be who I am today. But that was a trial, man, where like I was wrestling for a long period of time. I think now that I look back at it, I think that if he didn't if he didn't say that to me in the bookstore, I probably wouldn't be doing comedy. Right? It's probably like a 50% chance I wouldn't be doing comedy right now. But when he got me on stage with the Comedy Central shit or whatever, um, like if he didn't push me to get on stage, then I would have definitely never have even tried doing comedy. You know what I'm saying? Like on my own. It was like I had, like in the past I had some regrets about going to the school that I went to, but when I look back, I'm like, nah, that's right where I needed to be. Even though there were tough lessons and there were growing pains with the shit. Like, what were the odds that I would go to the school and someone would think that I'm funny? And this dude was like, no, like he wasn't just a everyday Joe Schmo. Like he was like the star of the campus, pretty much. Like everyone knew this dude. And um, if like, what were the odds that I even went to that school, and then not only that, but we got in the same dorm, and then he saw that I was funny, and then he pushed me to get on stage. Like, you know what I'm saying? So if I didn't even go to that school, I might not even be even thinking about comedy or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So, uh, but now, like I was saying, it was like what he did was he basically showed me a door that I never knew even existed. You know, um, and now like I'm on this journey, or I'm on this path by myself. And it's cool to be able to go back and to recant like how you got to where you're at, and that's why I'm doing this shit. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, cause I might not be nobody one day, who knows? But when I put this shit out there, it's in the universe. You know what I'm saying? So people gonna see this shit whether they like it or not. Or I'm not gonna say whether they like it or not, but it's gonna be there, right? It's like that. What's that chick's name? Oh man, I can't think of this chick's name, man. Is it Margaret? No, what the fuck is her name? No, yeah, Martha Graham. Like, I think it's Martha Graham. Yeah, she had this quote that my friend put me onto, and it's a long ass quote, but basically the gist of the quote is, "There's only one you in this universe that's ever gonna exist ever, and it's your duty, or it's your responsibility to put whatever is within you out in the universe, because there's only one you that will ever exist in this lifetime. And if you, it's like your job is just to hold open the channel and to pump out what's inside of you out into this channel, and it's not your job or your responsibility to judge how good it is. It's just your responsibility to put it out there, um, and it's one of those things where, yeah, it's not your responsibility to judge it. It's like basically the senses that I don't own what's within me. Like, it's not my responsibility to judge and say, oh, I shouldn't put this out there. Like, whatever I see and process, and whatever I process internally, it needs to come out into the universe. You know what I'm saying? Because if I don't do that, then whatever's inside of me is gonna be lost forever. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I'm doing this whole little podcast shit, you know? But excuse me. But anyways, yeah, but back to the bookstore shit. Like that little situation, like I remember it like word for word. I remember that shit so vividly, man. And I still get chills thinking about it. But what I learned from that situation was, um, was that a lot of times, like the advice, like people are gonna tell you what you need to hear, but you might not be ready to hear what like you need to hear. You know what I'm saying? Um, but but like I struggled with that. Like I wrestled with that shit for a long time, man. Like, you know, wow. And I'm still wrestling with it to some degree, right? You know what I'm saying? But like, whatever that was, I'm glad that it happened, because um I think one of the greatest fears of mine in life is to like live my life and not be fulfilled, you know? I had a band director when I was in high school that said, what did he say? He said, I remember we were in band playing the song and there was no emotion in the song. We were just playing the notes. It was like real haphazard and he got pissed. He was like, man, cut, cut, cut. And I'm in a Christian school and this dude started cussing at us. He was like, man, what the fuck is y'all problem, man? He's like, y'all act like you don't want to be. He's like, y'all act like y'all don't want to be here. He said, look, I'm gonna tell you right now. He said the greatest tragedy in life is to go through life without a passion for anything. He said, if I don't have a passion for anything, I'd rather be dead. And I was like, yo, shit, he got a point. You know what I'm saying? So when it comes to like the whole bookstore story thing or whatever, right? Like I'm glad that happened because I'm wrestling with that, Like there's a part of me that's like, yo, what if I went back and took a different route, Like I don't get lost in that, but I think about, man. So I learned from my past experiences, or I'm learning from my past experiences where I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna keep scratching this itch until there is no more itch to scratch. You know what I mean? Like that's my duty, that's my responsibility. You know what I mean? But yeah, so with that being said, let me kind of get to the next trial, right? So that bookstore trial was, I think I'm still kind of wrestling with that now, but in the past, I think that moment was put there to make me keep scratching, Like I said before, if I didn't go to the bookstore that day and hear what I needed to hear from my friend slash mentor, I probably wouldn't be doing comedy today, you know? So he planted that seed, right? Or he didn't plant the seed, but he actually showed me a door or showed me another possibility. And I'm like, oh, wow. Yeah, he has a point. Shit, you know? So let me see. What's the next trial that I can talk about, man? So I'm trying to go like in like chronological order of like all my trials in comedy, So um, the next trial was, let me see. So we got bookstore, struggled. Um, I think I already talked about when I got called back for the second audition or the audition for the big campus show. So I'm not gonna harp on that. Um, yeah, because that's the whole Stonehenge bit that I had that was god awful. Um, I got to go back and see if I talked about that or not. If I didn't, I'll talk about Stonehenge next week or the Stonehenge bit. Um, but that's not really a trial. That's like an output of something else. So let me see what's um the next comedy trial I'm going to talk about is we'll probably talk about Virginia Beach, right? That's probably like my next comedy trial. Yeah, Virginia Beach. So I might go back and loop back a little bit and touch on, Stonehenge a little bit, but we're gonna talk about Virginia Beach because that was like another comedy trial. You know what I'm saying? But real quick, make sure y'all hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. So I kind of did it there. hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. You know what I'm saying? Share this with a friend or share with whoever. Like I said before, AT is where it's at on all forms of social media. Follow me. But what else we got going on? So up next, this is the last segment of the show. Up next. What's going on in the world of Andre Theobold? So all I'm doing right now, so I have actually no, I got a big event coming up. So let me lead with that. So this coming Wednesday, March 17th, virtually, I will be performing I will be showcasing on the First Impressions virtual comedy show. This is a big deal. Like Chocolate Sundays is a big deal here in LA, man. So, if you go on my social media, AT is where it's at. You know what I'm saying? You'll see like the flyers come up for it. You know what I'm saying? You'll see like where you can go and get tickets from or whatever, or purchase tickets at or whatever. So make sure if you want to come check me out, I could use the support. But what else, man? And other than that, I'm doing some mics, some Zoom mics. I got a challenge mic coming up next week, probably. Probably gonna do a liar mic next week. So there's that. And then at the end of the month, I think before the end of the month, I'm gonna do I got invited to be a guest on the podcast, so I'll be shooting that. And the podcast is entitled "Everybody's a Comedian" with Keith Graber, and it's a dope podcast, man. So I definitely recommend that y'all check that podcast out. Like the way he does it, the way he frames everything up is very it's very intimate. Like not in the romantic way, but it's like very like he hits on a lot of key points, man. And there are like a lot of gems that come out of that podcast. So make sure y'all go check that out. But yeah, like I said, man, Chocolate Sundays, virtual First Impressions. Next Wednesday, March 17th, 7 p.m. West Coast time. AT is where it's at. You'll see all the information. So without further ado, I make the same fucking mistake. I said without further ado, like I'm going into something else. So with that being said, I think that's a better way to put it, right? With that being said, this has been the 5th installment of Trippin with Theobold. Thank you for tuning in. I said thank you. Thank you for tuning in. Y'all been a lot of fun. Why am I saying y'all? I'm not even shooting this shit live. Hey, thanks for listening. I'm out of here. Peace.